Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Plymouth City Council Cabinet. And just to remind people that these proceedings are recorded live, and so when your microphone is on, people can hear. And please, can you turn your mobile devices to silent or switch them off? Thank you. Okay. Agenda item 1, apologies from Cabinet members.
We've received apologies from Councillor Bill Wakeham.
Thank you. Agenda item 2, declarations of interest. No. Thank you. Agenda item 3, the minutes of the meeting held on the 9th of February 2023. We were happy to approve. Approved. Agenda item 4, questions from the public. We have 2. The first one is from Mr. Greg Black. So if I read the question for you, Greg Black is not here, as I understand, so I shall read Mr. Black's question. Question is, please can you confirm how often Lipson Vale, Edgar Terrace and Bernice Terrace is swept, rubbish removed and leaves are cleared? Because Councillor Wakeham's not here, I cannot read the answer, I think. So the answer is, from Councillor Wakeham's team, teams attend Lipson Vale, Edgar Terrace and Bernice Terrace on a 4 to 6 week cleansing schedule. Works undertaken are a mechanical sweep on footways and highways that Plymouth City Council has responsibility for, removing leaf fall, street litter and other detritus. We encourage members of the public and residents in their areas to report any issues outside of our cleansing schedule through the reporting portal online. The second question from the public is from Andrew Hill, and I don't think he's here either, so I will ask the question. Andrew Hill asks, dozens of one-time MOD properties at Hillcrest Close have been empty for a number of years. What has the council done to date to try to ensure these homes come back into use, and what future steps are planned to force these properties to be brought back into use? I do have an answer. You comfortable for me to read? Yep, thanks. So on behalf of the Cabinet, the answer is as follows. The Council have been working with Plymouth Community Homes and the Government Housing Agency Homes England over the last 18 months to negotiate the bulk purchase of these homes from the current owner, Allington Homes. The proposal is for Plymouth Community Homes to acquire and refurbish 86 3-bedroom properties and bring them back into use as affordable homes for social rent and affordable home ownership. Negotiations are at an advanced stage and sufficient funding has recently been secured in principle to enable the purchase to proceed over the next few months. I thank those 2 individuals for their questions to Cabinet. Agenda item 5, Chair's urgent business. There is no urgent business to report from the Chair, and we therefore move to agenda item 6, which is the leaders' announcements. This is the last Cabinet of the municipal year, and it's worth reflecting on some of the achievements of 2023 around this administration's priority for higher value jobs. It's also incredibly exciting to announce £21 million later in this meeting of inward investment into sport, the biggest investment in sport in this city since the Life Centre. I know Jonathan Dreen will mention it, but also one of the largest transport projects, the Platinum Parkway, and but sort of moving into high value jobs. I just want to sort of mention some of the really good coverage we'd had over the last few weeks. Plymouth has been named as one of the 14 most underrated destinations in the globe. I'm not quite sure what the methodology is for that, but that's a lot of research. The second thing is this has been followed up by amazing articles across the national media, including the Telegraph, Mirror, and Mail. I think we've been sharing actually, a lot of us, those wonderful articles. So I'm also pleased to have seen the Box has picked up yet more national coverage for its Spring Arts programme. And this brilliant article, actually, it's been in the Financial Times running over the last week. So well done to Victoria and the team at the Box. I just briefly wanted to thank Plessy and their CEO, Dr. Keith Strickland, for hosting myself and David Draffen and the Economic Development team last Friday morning. What I didn't know about semiconductors based on silicon, I certainly know a lot more now, and I shared that with Plymouth Live over the last few days in an article. It's just been one of a number of visits I've made to companies across Plymouth, and it is absolutely awesome. The amount of advanced manufacturing and sort of science, engineering-based companies we've got here. I think those sectors account for something like 60% of the jobs we have in Plymouth. So it's not all hospitality and cream teas. It's a seriously diverse city, with a strong economic infrastructure, worth around £6 billion a year GDP, Plymouth. So it's a serious city that we are responsible for here. But just to remind us of what we've achieved in the past year: designation of the UK's first free port and securing our first corporate tenant over the last couple of weeks. We are a government high potential now for marine autonomy. That's not easy to achieve. We've opened the Smart Sound Control Room and the 5G network last year. We have additional manufacturing facilities now at Plymouth Science Park. We have the redevelopment of Intercity Place. We've completed the Melville building at Royal William Yard. We've got Urban Splash working next door to revamp the Civic Centre. We've got land deals and development on with Hilton Hotel on the Hoe, with M&S Food Hall at Derriford. We've got the first CEO of UK's first national marine park, and massive amounts of sort of national coverage going into that over the last few weeks. We've got a master plan for Mill Bay, Brittany Ferries and associated British ports. We've got a strategy on ports, putting all the 4 regulatory authorities together. We've got a rekindled campaign for opening a city airport here in Plymouth, which we very much need. Our inward investment team has engaged with 715 companies recently. We've got a 95% occupancy rate on our commercial estate, and we have 98% debt recovery. So the next year we have the redevelopment of the Civic Centre. We've got this wonderful regeneration, millions of pounds of regeneration going into Armada Way and George Street. We've got the new Derriford District shopping centre being built, and relocation of Shekinah to Stonehouse Creek, and 2 further direct development proposals around City Business Park and Langage. In the last year, our City Council alone has engaged with 1,562 businesses. They have been engaged in a proactive, investment-centred way. We have 18 live foreign direct investment inquiries at values totaling around £30 million. We've got a jobs pipeline running up to 2030 of some 8,000 jobs. Most of them are higher value, graduate level jobs. And we have inside our city a £500 million development pipeline spread across dozens of capital projects. This is certainly not a city that is in decay, certainly not staff or councillors that are in decay. This is a city that's on the up, and our record doesn't speak for itself, but I'm happy to speak for it today. Right, so that's my announcement. So we'll go around the room. Councillor Shea, any further announcements?
I will run with mine as I go through.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Dream.
Thank you, Leader. Apologies for the voice. Just to share with colleagues and anyone joining us online today, at lunchtime today I had a catch-up meeting with Cross Country Trains, and it was interesting to hear that on their new timetable from May there will be an hourly service from Plymouth going northbound, and currently some of their services terminate at Newcastle. These will be continuing through to Edinburgh and Glasgow, so that's good news. You mentioned Forder Valley opening last week, Leader. That was really good that that's opened and the traffic is flowing there. The Brest Road and Morley Drive will be opening shortly, and that will hopefully alleviate congestion on the A386 and the important Derriford roundabout. I just wanted to share with colleagues there some of the community benefits of the project that was done. For example, on that construction project, 85% of the workforce was local in a PL postcode. For small medium enterprises, 18.1 million is estimated to have been spent. It created 13 jobs. There were 6 weeks work experience for under 16 students, 75 weeks worth of experience for the over 16s, and approximately 455 weeks training, including graduate, apprentices and NVQ levels. So that was really good to hear that for local residents and students, etc. Just to confirm that lining work at the moment is ongoing across the city, all the pedestrian crossings, junction safety lines, etc. That's a rolling programme, but I've noticed quite a few have been done as we go through that at the moment. And there's additional lighting that was put in with TCF funding, which Rebecca was involved with as well, with the Violence Against Women in Central Park, was opened this week. Thank you, Leader.
Thanks, Councillor Dream. No need to apologise for the voice. You sound like the late Roger Moore. Very nice. Very. Councillor Dr. John Mahoney.
Thank you, Leader. I'm really pleased to report that the number of patients waiting or clients waiting for domiciliary care to be allocated to them in the city is at its lowest level for 18 months or more. So this is a big success, and a huge thank you to the commissioning team and our providers for their hard work. And I'm sure that recent recruitment events, which brought 25 new workers to the home care market, as well as the arrivals of our first 20 international recruits, has helped to solve this manpower problem in domiciliary care. So it's important to convey our thanks for all the work that carers across the city do to support the most vulnerable. We also continue to perform ahead of our target for our no right to reside position, which is patients in Derriford Hospital are fit for discharge but are waiting for care to be provided in the community or at home. And actually we only have 11 today. There are 29 waiting, but the others are waiting for Mount Gold beds or Cottage Hospital beds at Kingsbridge or Tavistock, which is not under our control. So we are well ahead as regards getting patients who are fit to be discharged, mainly elderly patients who need care, out of Derriford, and that is a great success, which all thanks to the team responsible for that. Also, following approval of the budget, I'm pleased to report this week we'll be confirming our uplift rates for adult care providers. This will see the hourly rate for dom care rise from 19.87 pence per hour to £22 and 0 pence per hour. I will be urging providers to ensure that the majority of this goes straight into the pay packets of frontline care staff in the city. We are also uplifting contracts for care homes and supported living provision by 8.5% from the 1st of April 2023. So this is to try and keep sustainability and in the market, and actually encourage more people to go and work in our home care and dom care providers. So thank you very much. It's good news.
Thank you. Councillor Carlisle.
Thank you, Leader. Got a couple of announcements. One of the things I'd like to highlight is Emma Hewitt and her team, who work incredibly hard on skills launchpads, and which is based at Barclays Bank. They also, I was really delighted, I attended the launch of the employer hub there, and there's so many businesses that have started to engage with us, and this is working on apprenticeship levels and for adult education. I mean, in fact, Encore Southwest with Mark Truan and with Emma Hewitt, they've helped over 2,000 learners per year, and that's in adult education as well. They've also managed to secure Send Innovation, and they've established a Send Employment Forum as well. Just another little thing I'd like to talk about is, obviously we all know I'm very passionate about the Care Leavers Covenant and trying to get as many businesses as possible signed up. I've been working really closely with Tina Brinkworth, and we're hopefully we've been engaging with Princess Yachts. which will be amazing. So they're really, really passionate about getting on, oh, I'm not going to say on board with us because it's a horrific pun, I didn't even mean that one. And we've also been working with City Bus, who are really passionate about working with us and supporting our care leavers. And Karen Blake has also been engaging with a lot of our businesses. We have also managed, Tina Brinkworth has managed to get 2 of our care leavers on the Babcock Future Engineers course, which is only 30 people on there. So we've managed to get 2 of those already on there, and Babcock are willing to engage with us more about supporting our care experience. And just another little thing, speaking to our youth service team, so far what they do is they go around and we've got the youth centres, we've got various other things and going into schools, but also we've got our on-street team, part of the Safer Streets, who go out and engage on a regular basis, nightly basis, cups of hot chocolate and everything. And between all of them, they've managed to engage with 2,620 young people so far, which is really good, and it's sort of building that really nice rapport and relationship with them. And finally, and I know a few of you were with me yesterday when we watched the Youth Parliament elections, it's really lovely to see how many young people actually are engaging on a political level. We had 6 incredibly strong candidates, and all of them got over 700 votes each. And obviously we have 2 deputies and 2 chairmen from that. And looking at what the previous cabinet did and the success rate that they had last year, I'm really looking forward to seeing what these guys are going to deliver. I mean, only yesterday at International Women's Day, I witnessed 3 of our youth parliament delivering such an inspirational and passionate speech that it actually received a round of applause, and it received a standing ovation from over 200 people in a room. So quite incredible work for under 18s, really.
It was a wonderful event last night with the Youth Parliament. And I have asked that they meet with all cabinet members for those that ran campaigns relevant to your areas. If you would meet with them, that would be fabulous. Councillor Patel.
Thank you, Leader. Just a couple of announcements. So on the events front, so we had an excellent events programme last year, and the new events programme, which is just about to go live, and comms going out on that soon, is just as good, and it's absolutely full. And this year we've actually added in all the third-party stuff that's not being delivered by Plymouth. On PAL, the Plymouth Active for Leisure, we've got a new Chief Operating Officer there, and he's doing some wonderful work on that, and we're getting more membership and what have you there. The Box has been delivering an excellent programme for the last year or so. The visitor numbers have gone through the roof. We're actually hit our target and above for that, and the new exhibitions that are now live are really exciting and worth going to. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Patel. Councillor Stoneman.
My announcements come back to items further on in the agenda.
Of course, yeah. Councillor Smith.
I just wanted to mention we're about 4 days after the end of Empty Homes Week, but I thought I'd just announce what we announced then, which is that empty homes across the city clearly are a complete wasted resource to the many families and individuals that need somewhere to live at the moment. And as part of our work on our kind of ongoing programme of work on empty homes, we have launched a new additional bit to our Empty Homes Financial Assistance Scheme. So as before, landlords can apply for a loan of up to £50,000 per unit, repaid via subsequent rental income. But this year there's an additional improved element. So providing that an empty homeowner undertakes to project manage the renovation themselves and agrees then to rent the property at an affordable rate back to one of our recognised social letting schemes, they're entitled to a 20% grant. So that means of that loan that they would get, a part of it is gifted to them to do that project. The idea is that they pay the loan back through rental income, but I think this is really good. It's a really good way of encouraging landlords to take properties that just often need a little bit of work, sometimes they need a lot of work, to bring them back up to scratch so that they can be rented out. I think anything that encourages that is really important, and so just to encourage any landlords across the city who are in that position to do that and release those properties as much needed homes for people who live here in the city. Thank you.
Brilliant, thank you. I know, speaking with the university, they were saying there's such a shortage of quality, bigger houses here, you know, for sort of larger families or multiple occupancy, so it's really good. Okay, thank you. Agenda item 8. Welcome to Councillor Chris Pemberthy, and this is about the select committee into the armed forces that we've held here in Plymouth over the last few months. Councillor Pavley, I don't know where you get the time, because Deputy Mayor, Chair of the Scrutiny Management Board, but also run a number of fantastic select committees and task forces in the last year. So I'll hand over to you.
Thank you, Leader. The community covenant is something that is really important to us as a city. It always has been. Ours was first signed when we hosted National Armed Forces Week back just over 10 years ago now. Bizarrely, in all that time, the community covenant has never been subject to any scrutiny. And as a scrutiny management board, we felt it was about time that we rectified that, because not because it's going wrong, but as a major thing for the city, it's about partnership. We can always look and learn and see how we can make things better. And with 10 years' work under our belt, we thought it was also time to celebrate that. Inevitably, recommendations will be about how we make things better. But I wanted to first of all start by saying a big thank you to everyone who has worked on the community covenant over the last 11 or 12 years, because it took a bit of time to get it to signing point. That's been across parties, it's been across sectors, and that has added value to the city. What we did learn was that we could do more, and I think it was a useful scrutiny. In terms of our process, we were very keen that it wasn't just an in-house scrutiny process, and we launched a public engagement during Armed Forces Week last year, and we had people respond to us, both in chatting to us, inviting people on visits, as well as making formal submissions, and then coming to the select committee itself. Now, it feels like a long time ago. Councillor Share might well agree with me. It was last November that we actually met, and then you have to go through the processes of turning meetings into reports and hitting timetables of committee meetings where they come through. So the sausage machine, I think, has been working quite hard, not only at producing a report, but on the next stages. And I'd like to take this opportunity, I'm going to say thank you again later, but Councillor Share was attending the whole of the session, heard what was said at the time, and I know took things away in advance of the sausage machine working, so that we didn't leave our veterans, our serving personnel, our military families, and their children waiting, but we actually got on with things. I think one of the things that we did realise was that there are further things that need scrutiny. And so a number of the recommendations were actually to other scrutiny panels, because it's important that we embed the community covenant across all parts of the council, and that all parts of the council realise how important it is, rather than it sitting with a little bit of the team in the policy team in Giles's bit, with a cabinet member, a champion, and that being it. It needs to infiltrate the council. One of the ways we've already seen that happening was, for those of you who've listened in on the Mental Health Select Committee over the last 2 days, the voice of veterans became really strong there. And I know hearing from a veteran became quite an emotional point for those people sitting in on the meeting. So scrutiny is already doing that, and I think we will do more. I particularly want to highlight one thing that I know might be a bit controversial. The Royal British Legion do an enormously good job. But one of the things they had said was that they would take on support for MKC Heroes, an international initiative that began here in Plymouth. And there has been a feeling that our kids have been let down since that transition happened. The Select Committee specifically noticed in all the submissions we received, which included quite a long one from the RBL, they didn't mention children and young people once. And I know that since that time, Councillor Murphy, who has really championed MKC Heroes for more than a decade, has worked really closely with Heather Ogburn, who founded them, no longer living in the city, and Councillors Shea and Carlisle. So although we did mention it, the criticism in our report wasn't of the RBL generally, it was of the fact that they were letting our kids down on something they'd promised to do. I'm pleased to say that we seem to have movement on that, and that's in part because the RBL have acknowledged that they're not going to be doing it, and so we're now able to move forward to the next stages. And at this point, I would like to particularly thank Councillor Murphy, Heather Ogburn, and Councillor Shea and Carlisle for pushing that piece of work forward. It's important that we don't let our young people down. And we've heard about the UK Youth Parliament. sadly, in our select committee, we didn't hear from the MKC ambassadors because they were no longer supported. And the voice of children and young people was obvious in its absence. I hope in the future that won't be the case because we will have found a local solution. And thank you to everyone who's been involved in that. So we were looking forward to the next 10 years. We were looking at some of the bits that could strengthen the covenant going forward. It's not cast in stone. It's got to be a moving feast. It's got to react to what's going on around it. And we have to continually, as a council, look at what our leadership role is in the city in facilitating and enabling a citywide partnership to support not only our serving armed forces community and our veterans, but their families, serving personnel's partners and their children really matter too. And we need to look after all of those, plus our territorials and cadets, some of whom will be part of the City Council's family in terms of employment. So I think we did a good job. Obviously, I'd say that. I chaired the Select Committee. I would like to thank all the members who participated. It was quite an intense afternoon, and for the 6 of us who were sitting, listening to the evidence and trying to work out where we went with it, it was quite hard work. I'd like to thank all of the officers who supported us, not only in terms of the Select Committee, but in providing information and background documents from across the council. And that's why lots of the recommendations are not necessarily just to the cabinet member responsible, but to other cabinet members, because there was a sense of we needed to move things wider than that. I would like to thank Councillor Shea for spending a whole afternoon with us. I know cabinet members' times are precious, but I think that showed his commitment to the covenant and in his role as the Armed Forces champion. And a very big thank you to all members of the public who engaged in the process, in written evidence and in attending and speaking, some of whom were really nervous about saying anything at all, but who came and they put the perspective of the Armed Forces community. I think that's a really good example of how scrutiny reaches to the city, and I think something that the Scrutiny Management Board want to build on going forward. Obviously, that's something we'll look on elsewhere, but I think it was a good session. I think we have produced some things that could be useful, and I know I've read the responses, but I know a lot has already started. So thank you to Councillor Shea for that, and I'm sure he's going to tell us about that now.
Thanks, Councillor Pemberton. Councillor Shea, do you wish to respond?
Yes, please, Leader. I'd just like to say thank you very much initially to Councillor Pemberton for chairing the Select Committee. It was excellent. And you did a really good job in bringing together a huge number of people to present at that Select Committee, which really gave it the depth that we actually needed at that time. The Armed Forces in Plymouth and the veterans in Plymouth and all those that are covered by the Armed Forces Covenant are really important. And I don't think that people initially on the day, nor the people of Plymouth actually understand how many people it actually affects. If we look at the statistics, there are some 18,000 veterans in Plymouth who identify as veterans. 3 of them are in this room. In addition to that, there's the serving personnel in Plymouth as well at the present, their families, including their children, and their extended family. And if we extrapolate that out, that could easily and reasonably reliably point at a figure of 50,000 people in Plymouth alone. That's 1/5 of our population. So I'd like to thank you for all of the points that you brought up at the Select Committee. And as you know, we have already started on that pathway to put those issues in a better position, and will continue to do so. One thing I would like to add there is I thank Councillor Murphy for pointing out that the MKC heroes fell through the cracks, and that was unfortunate at the time. But we've now come about and at least in this case, given them a start and a solid foundation back in Plymouth again, and we have established somewhere for them to meet and to practice for their choir again for the future. So that's a really positive thing. Okay, so the 10-year path for the Armed Forces Covenant in Plymouth has been a long one, and the legislation is probably one of the fastest pieces of moving legislation at the moment in Parliament, and it never gets recognised. So thank you very much for keeping us all up to speed with the changes that are coming through in the Armed Forces government, in some cases almost on a monthly basis. Okay, so the majority of the recommendations have either been agreed or noted where relevant, and in a number of cases have already been moved forward. So I thank you very much, Councillor Penberthy. So we're going to have to vote to move that forward. So are we all happy to, I won't go through individually all of the select committee's recommendations and all of the cabinet responses. I think you've had an opportunity to read those. But are you happy with moving this forward and voting on it? Thank you very much.
Thanks, Councillor Chair. Thanks, Councillor Penberthy, for the work on that and coming in to explain as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. If you'll excuse me, I need to go on and do something else now.
Excused. Dismissed. Okay, agenda item 9. This is the Audit and Governance Committee Chair update. We welcome Councillor Andy Lugger.
Thank you, Leader. And thank you, Cabinet, for allowing me to present my report this afternoon. If you ask the average man on the Clapham omnibus whether they know of any committees in his local authority, I'm sure he will come up with taxi, licensing, planning, highways, but I doubt very much whether Audit and Governance is going to be tipping off his or her tongue. Be that as it may, the Audit and Governance Committee is probably one of the most vital functions of the Council, as it underpins good governance and financial standards. Now, I don't propose going through my report in any great detail because I treat it as read, that you've had it, but I should point out where we have progressed since I addressed you back in November. Since then, the committee has approved the annual update to the risk management strategy, recommended the capital finance and treasury management strategies for council approval, approved a new disclosure and barring check policy. Now, of course, this now extends to Cabinet, as you probably know, and created a subgroup to consider the engagement concerning the changes to the electoral cycle. Of course, I made a speech about that in full council a couple of months ago. By way of an update, the group will meet again on Thursday. We're at the stage now where we're putting together the questionnaires, the appropriate questions to ask the good people of Plymouth about changes to the electoral cycle, and also coming up with a sample, and also, moreover, really to discuss other stakeholders whom we should consult. We also have before you, I believe it's in the pack, the latest external audit report. The paper and minutes have been appended and they will be debated at the next A&G meeting, which is on the 29th of March. And I will then be able to address the report in more detail and come up with further recommendations. I would like to ask of Cabinet an instruction. It occurs to me over a period of time that there's been one or two shortfalls in the Constitution as it stands. Councillor Penberthy's just left the room now. I attended a scrutiny meeting the other day and I received a referral or a recommendation from that committee to have a look at the way the council deals with petitions and referenda. I've also looked at the Constitution when I was involved in another committee, and on page 121 onwards, we have the arrangements for handling allegations under the Code of Conduct against members of Plymouth City Council, where I've noticed shortcomings there as well. So perhaps it would be an appropriate time now for Cabinet to give an instruction to Audit and Governance to conduct a thorough, independent review of the Constitution and suggest recommendations, which is in line with our terms of reference in the Constitution on page 75. As time is pressing on, I would obviously like to invite questions, but I would also mention that the Audit and Governance Committee will continue to provide independent and high-level focus on the audit, assurance and reporting arrangements that, as I say, underpin good governance and financial standards. Thank you, Leader.
Thanks, Councillor Lugger. Any questions? And Councillor Shea, you got any questions at all? No, on that? No. So I think the nature of business today is obviously to note the report. I hear what Councillor Lugger is proposing, and what I would ask is, as officers, is to work a way to find a formula for progressing the review of the constitution or the audit and governance, looking at that as a task force or however you decide you want to do that. But certainly, yes, is the answer. We would like indicatively from a cabinet for you to undertake that. It's just as we move into PERDA, the structure, the constitutional structure of achieving that request. So I'll ask perhaps Councillor Lugger, Giles Perrett to liaise and work out a formula for that. But the business of the meeting to note the report. Are we happy to note the update report? And good, yeah. Councillor, did you wish to come in or?
Just to thank you, Leader, for that. And yes, I'm well aware that this is a job for the new municipal year. And thank you.
So, just to be so clear, I mean, I was on audit and governance last year. Councillor John Mahoney chaired it. Councillor Shea, thank you so much for the work that you've done. We know that that presentation there is kind of the product of, say, a year's work. And audit and governance, it does wrap around everything. It's one of those committees that has to look at everything intensely and in a lot of depth. So thanks for your leadership on that and taking the helm of that at the beginning of the municipal year. So thank you. And that's agenda item 9. Okay, agenda item 10. Leaders Delivery Plan Quarter 3. I move item 10 on the agenda. I don't intend to speak to it because I kind of covered a lot of it off in the leaders' announcements, if that's okay. Are we happy to note the report? Yeah, excellent. Agenda item 11, Corporate Plan Performance Update Quarter 3. I will move that report and ask Councillor Shea, do you wish to add anything?
Just a few things, Leader. Just to bear in mind, everybody, that this report is to provide an update to scrutiny on the performance of the council in terms of progress against the year and against the corporate plan. And I'll remind scrutiny that the real value of this report is helping you identify areas of performance that you would like to scrutinise further and therefore bring about a better performance within the council. So that's very much all I was doing. Thank you.
Any questions? Cabinet, all we're asking is to note the report. Yep.
No, yeah.
Noted. Agenda item 12, Finance Monitoring Report Month 10. And again, Councillor Shea.
Thank you once again, Leader. Right, this report sets out the revenue monitoring position of the council forecast to the end of the financial year 2022-23 as at January, which is period 10. We're now reporting a net overspend down to £1.3 million, and this is an improvement on £1.5 million in the last month. And we continue to show a month-on-month improvement as we edge towards the end of the financial year. This sends out a clear message that we have got a firm handle on the council's finances and resolving the unprecedented pressures that we have faced this year. Remembering that, it's come down from £14.7 million. This report is simplified this month to show the net position for each directorate with a clear commentary on the pressures and mitigations. And this recommendation, as set out in the report, are for noting.
Thanks, Councillor Shea. And can I thank you, I think, on behalf of Cabinet for being on the coalface for the last year, getting these numbers down with David Northey and indeed Brendan Arnold, back sort of earlier in the year. We had, was it £16 million in year shortfall, and it is no mean task to go through department by department, line by line, and do what our responsibility is, which is to have a balanced budget, but also moral responsibility to grip public finance. So thank you to you both for your leadership on that. Councillor Sher.
So I think really the accolade goes to the financial team and the directors, and in actual fact, every single member of the council. I know that every person out there has been working extremely hard on cutting costs, getting as efficient services as possibly can. It's been a monumental task, but I think every single person in the council, from the top down, has worked extremely hard on this and done a remarkably good job. So thank you very much for all the staff in the council. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Dr. Mahoney.
I've just noticed, I think on page 123, corporate accounts and council-wide items, it actually shows a bigger forecast spend than budget, and yet it says it's an underspend. I suspect the figures may have got inverted or something has happened there. Doesn't quite make sense, or maybe I'm being particularly stupid in my accounting.
No, it's good to raise. David, did you want to did you want to come back now, or do you want to check and then come back after, because it might just be a typo or something?
Through you, Chair, I'm checking, and it looks okay on my copy, but I'm quite happy to pick that up with you. But
Good. Thank you. And well, I mean, that proves the forensic analysis of every cabinet member into every line of our council's finances, and that we never stop. You know, even though we passed the budget last week, we carry on being vigilant. So thank you for that. We are happy to note the report then. Are we, colleagues? Is that right? Yeah. Thank you. Agenda item 13. This is the cabinet response to council actions. I'm not going to read the 3 pages of items in front of me. Look, there's the relief on the faces here. But what I am going to do is summarise for the purpose of business today. And so we're reporting basically moving the item on the actions approved by the City Council amended budget. As I said at that council meeting, you know, setting a budget is for councillors to do. It's not from edicts of the leader or chief officer, etc. It's been 57 councillors involved in all the budget and scrutiny discussions over the year. Thank you to everyone for that. We put forward a budget of £217.4 million, which was accepted by our colleagues, and there was some really decent suggestions put forward by other councillors on the floor, and so we came up with as councillors, it came up with a revenue budget of 218.4 million for the next year. More than happy to progress with this, so I'm not going to list out each one. Before we do, just any quick questions from cabinet members? No. So we're recommending that cabinet notes the allocation approved by council on the 27th of February, as set out in paragraph 2.3 and appendix 1 of the briefing report. And we agree, basically, point 2, we agree columns A to R. Yeah. And then finally, part 3 of this is that note that the council recommendation to the leader is to lobby government for an increase in Plymouth's local housing allowance. Councillor Smith, yeah.
It's just in response to item H, where I know obviously the amendment allocates money to the cost of living working group. That's not at this stage a cabinet working group, it's an informal group. So I don't know whether the wording is accurate or whether that is kind of a future. So we've called it the cost of living task force, and it doesn't have any official standing. It's just a gathering of stakeholders. I know there was an attempt to formalise it at a previous council meeting that we didn't accept. So I'm just conscious that the language is a little bit contradictory where we're standing at the moment. So whether we just need to call it cost of living task force rather than working group, because usually the title working group implies it's been set up by the cabinet, and in this case it hasn't. So
Jamie, can I just hand over to you? Is that in order? Because there is an amendment, obviously, that's been passed word by word on the floor of the council. So we just need to check.
We can check the wording of the task force or group outside of the meeting. Just make sure.
So to be clear, we can move to passing this business, yeah? Okay, so are we happy to agree those three parts of the recommendations to Cabinet? Yeah, thank you, thank you. Agenda item 14, which is the council tax premiums. You've got supplementary pack pages there, 31 to 38. We will briefly turn to Paul Luby if he's on the call, but we are happy to proceed quickly. Paul, did you want to come in at all? No? Okay, well, we're happy to proceed. So any questions around that from Cabinet members? No? Okay. So Cabinet is recommended to Council that number one, subject to the Levelling Up Bid and Regeneration Bill receiving royal assent from the 1st of April 24, the current 100% premium for dwellings which are unoccupied and substantially unfurnished will be levied after a period of 1 year. And point two, subject to the Levelling Up and Regeneration Bill receiving royal assent from April the 1st, 2024, a premium of 100% will be levied on all dwellings which are unoccupied and substantially furnished. Second homes. Are we willing to approve? You can.
Just very brief. So if this were to go ahead and the bill receives royal assent, will the potential for the £1 million be added to the council's baseline for future budgets in future years to come?
Yes, Chair, there would be ongoing income, yeah.
Year on year.
Thank you. Okay. So are we happy to vote for those two recommendations? Yeah. Okay. Thanks, colleagues. Passed. Okay. Agenda item 15, Chelson Meadow Community Solar Virtual Power Purchase Agreement. Councillor Stoneman, I believe.
Thank you, Leader. So this is one of two items on the Chelson Meadow Solar Farm on the agenda today. The first one looking at the Virtual Power Purchase Agreement. This is a great step forward for the council. I don't need to list through the benefits again. I've done that at previous cabinet meetings when we were discussing the original business case in the first place. But so approving the virtual power purchase agreement, we are protecting the council from future volatility in the market for the 20-year period of the solar farm. And it's important to note this went to scrutiny last week, and we had a really good in-depth conversation about it. And all of their recommendations have been incorporated into the reports, including the ring fencing of surplus funds when the purchase agreement is monitored year on year to try and protect and if any unforeseen expense comes up, or to protect the council's revenue from further volatility. I'll pass over to Paul or Kat if they've got anything further they want to add on this item.
No, Paul. No. Good. So it's recommended that Cabinet approves the business case, including the requirement for quarterly monitoring and the annual review of the virtual power purchase agreement. We agreed to enter into virtual power purchase agreement with Chelson Community Solar on the basis set out of the report. We delegate authority for negotiation of the terms within the virtual power purchase agreement to the Section 151 officer in consultation with the monitoring officer. And finally, we note that the Section 151 officer will sign the agreement subject to it not being signed as a deed. Where it is a deed, it will be signed by the monitoring officer or other authorised legal signatory. We all content to approve that. Approved. Agenda item 16, Chelson Meadow Community Solar Construction Loan. Did you want to add anything?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So this item on the agenda is to seek the approval an agreement for £16.3 million of capital funding for the programme in order to provide a long-term finance loan to the Chelson Community Solar for the construction of the solar farm. And that follows the approval of the principal business case back in October.
Thanks, Councillor Sloman. Any questions? Excellent. Are we happy to approve the business case and the principle of the recommendation from Councillor Stoneman? Approved. Thank you. Agenda item 17, habitat banking vehicle, and this is going to be, again, Councillor Stoneman, you've moved into banking. Wonderful.
Thank you, Chair. This is the last time you're going to hear me, so, just for everyone's benefit, I'm pleased to be able to introduce the decision before us to create a new habitat bank for the city, a nationally innovative approach that leads the way in providing the council's positive response to the new duties from the biodiversity net gain policy set out in the New Environment Act. The decision recommends establishing a company owned by, but at arm's length for the council, that through the New Environment Act duty secures new streams of investment to create a nationally recognised biodiversity product that is sold to the developer market and then potentially other corporate buyers to generate sustainable revenues to help finance the enhancement and maintain the city's green spaces for people and wildlife for a minimum of 30 years. Due to the nature of the proposal and recommendations, this has been treated as an unusual and innovative transaction following the recommendations set out in the council's procedures. This means that it has been scrutinised through the scrutiny working group, and council officers will be tasked with keeping committees up to date with any progress in establishing and running the Habitat Bank. The decision to establish the Habitat Bank does not itself have any financial implications for the City Council, as the development costs are met through external funding we have received through Heritage Lottery under the Future Parks Programme and DEFRA under the Natural Environment Readiness Fund. So you can see the recommendations from in the report set out what we are asking Cabinet to approve today.
Thanks, Councillor Stoneman. Any questions? No. Okay, good. So we move the following recommendations. I'm not going to read the four of them fully, if that's okay, team. So the first one approves creation of vehicles company structure as outlined in Councillor Stoneman's briefing report. Approves the appointment of the following officers to serve as directors of the Habitat Banking Special Purpose Vehicle. These are stated below. To appoint the Service Director for Finance to act as member representative in respect of the holding company and to exercise all voting rights on behalf of the Council as member of the company, including appointment and termination of company directors. And fourth, delegates the Service Director for Finance the authority to approve or enter into all relevant documentation and agreements on behalf of the Council in relation to the holding company and the Habitat Banking vehicle itself. Are we happy to move and approve that? Thank you. It's approved. Okay. Agenda item 18, Day Opportunities Contract Award. Councillor Dr. Mahoney.
Thank you, Edith. Can I just give a little bit of background to this? The Day Opportunities Services offer a range of activities and support delivered within both building and community settings. Day Opportunities support people with complex social needs, care needs, to become more independent through a focus on prevention, reduce social isolation, improve health and well-being, and increase self-management of their health conditions, and reduces reliance on paid support through involvement in social leisure and key life skills development activities in the community. We have 10 commissioned Day Opportunity contracted services representing a budget of over £1.3 million a year and currently support 198 clients. So it covers all adult ages and it covers a broad range of primary needs: learning disability, autism spectrum disorder, mental health and well-being, access and mobility, personal care support, sensory impairment, substance misuse, social isolation, and memory and cognition. This is a 2-year contract that's being awarded now, but will be accompanied by a review of the whole service to make further recommendations about how we manage the whole area within the 2 years of this contract. So we have 10 organisations that are funded by this contract. So do you want me to read out the recommendations, or has anyone got it? Yeah. Any questions?
Any questions from colleagues first? Councillor Mahoney, please do.
So we're recommended to approve the direct award of a new contract to the incumbent Day Opportunities suppliers 10 contracts for 2 years from the 1st of April 2023 until the 31st of March 2025 to enable strategic review and remodelling of the services. Secondly, to approve the development of a business case to describe the recommended approach and any associated procurement activity for the remodelled service.
Happy to approve? Approved. Thank you. Agenda item 19, our commitment as a City Council to equality and diversity. You'll see the pack, pages 145 to 166. To move this, I'll ask Councillor Rebecca Smith to introduce and move.
Thank you, Leader. So this is, sorry, I'm just bringing up the right page. Our commitment to equality and diversity. So I'm bringing this as chair of the Equality and Diversity Working Group. So we've had this come to Cabinet before. All you're asked today is to note the progress that's set out in our commitment to equality and diversity document, and then to endorse the accompanying updated action plan for 23-24. We went to scrutiny a few weeks ago, and the recommendations from that meeting have already been fed in to that action plan. So this is sort of the latest version following both our meeting, which Councillor Patel sits on as well, that cross-party working group. So it's just to recommend it to you today and get you to note and endorse the 2 items, please.
Thank you, and just for the record, I mean, I personally have oversighted some of this work. Thank you so much for taking the chairpersonship of that from, was it March last year? Last year. So I know there's been tremendous improvement and enhancement since your leadership, Councillor Smith. I think Conservative and Labour should be very proud of the members' contributions on that over the past year. I do think that we have been, I hate to be competitive sometimes with other local councils, but I do think we have shown quite a lot of sort of regional leadership on that and integrated it really well with your VORG work and the rest of it. So well done. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to propose a 5-minute interregnum or break because we've got people arriving. No, we are early. You're not late. So we've got some very special guests arriving, and I think they will want to get prepared for their talk or a presentation, whatever. So we'll sort of, it is now sort of 27 past. We'll come back. Is it okay to come back at 25 to, or is that too soon? 25 to, perfect. All right. So we'll adjourn until then. Thank you. It's always wonderful to have positive news, and we do get a lot of positive news in Plymouth. What I forgot to say earlier was, of course, that Dame Darcy Bustle, the world's most famous, world's leading ballerina, is joining us in Plymouth as chair of the Theatre Royal. Yeah. So congratulations to James and the team there for working with Dame Darcy to bring her to the helm of the team. But now we're talking millions of pounds of investment into sport. We're talking household names. We're talking health, well-being, fitness, and what do we know as councillors? Not much, but we've got the real experts in the room. But so I will hand over to Councillor Pat Patel, and then he can explain and do the intros. But thanks for attending.
Thank you, Leader. I'm really excited to bring to you this report on the future of Brickfields. In the room we have Matt Ward. Liz, unfortunately, can't join us, who have worked on the deal. And we also have Ruth and David online. I'm also delighted that we have the Argyle team, Andrew, David and Mark, and Max Vanderbuls from Plymouth Albion in the room with us. We will hear from them in a moment. This report sets out the £21 million investment in Brickfields, an investment that will not only transform the Brickfields site, but will transform the opportunities, the Devonport community, and for sports in the city, and also our professional sports clubs community. This deal, which is a result of an amazing and long-term partnership between Argyle, the Argyle Community Trust, Plymouth Albion, and Devonport Community Leisure Trust, and existing users of the site. We have developed this project on a cross-party basis, and I would like to thank all the ward councillors for working so hard in recent weeks to get this deal across the line. I will invite Argyle to talk a little about the investment they are making. Max will say a few words about how this project will increase participation in grassroots rugby, and Matt and Liz, well Matt now, will describe the deal and the timeline from here. But firstly, I wanted to set out what this deal means for me and this administration. This deal is about a massive investment in the facilities and making the most of the Brickfields site. It is clearly also a significant inward investment, in particular from Argyle, who are investing 18 million across the club and the community trust. But for me, this deal is about our ambition for our communities. It is about better health outcomes for the people of Devonport, and it's about better access to facilities for our local residents. I am so proud of what the team has achieved together, and I would like to pay a tribute to the City Council team who have been working on this deal for many years. So without further ado, I would like to pass over first to Argyle and then to Albion to set out the ambitions for the site, and also to Matt and Liz, Matt, to say a little about the actual deal.
Thank you very much. I've got my colleague here, Mark, who's the CEO of Community Trust, and I'll be handing over as well to Max a little bit later on. But first of all, we're really delighted to be presenting this project to Cabinet. It is, as Pat Patel said, a culmination of many years of dialogue, collaboration, and working with multiple stakeholders. When we set out this project, there were a number of objectives. I won't go into too much detail, but they were about sporting excellence, and that was to enhance an underutilised site, improving facilities for the local community and providing an exemplar multi-sport venue. So for Argyle Football Club, the academy, for the women's team, but then for other sports as well, so rugby, athletics, etc. And it will be able to attract, retain and develop the best sporting talent in our city. The second objective was around community engagement and to connect the whole of the local community with the site through a hub, which we'll talk about in a little while. There will be increased usage, another objective, regeneration and sustainability. I talked very quickly there about, or referenced quickly about the engagement with community, and Mark is going to talk now a little bit about that engagement that we've been through.
Hi all. So over the last 9 months, we've worked with a number of partners to do some community consultations. So as Andrew set out there, the community and Devonport and its residents, it's really important that we engage with them. And we were looking at in terms of how we done that. So it wasn't just Plymouth Argyle and Argyle Community Trust. There's a number of partners that are based on the site, alongside Plymouth City Council, Public Health, Live Well, the Redeemer Church and Active Devon and other partners to do a community engagement piece to understand what the local community wanted, what they felt about Brickfields, what they wanted to see in the Brickfields site. And some of the things and the common themes that were coming out of there was indoor spaces, improved outdoor spaces, a community offering, low cost, a family offering, versatility, health and well-being, education, youth, local offering, open spaces, cafe. They were the buzzwords that were being drawn out of the community consultation, and it's really important that we've done this at a high level, and we met with a number of organisations, and to continue that journey. Now that the project is out in the public domain, we will continue to obviously undertake that community consultation in further detail.
So just a brief outline of what's involved in terms of the master plan and how we're developing the outdoor spaces. First of all, there'll be 2 floodlit play zones which will be open to the community. There'll be a full-size 3G rugby pitch, which will be the only rugby compliant pitch 3G in the city. There'll also be a full-size 3G football pitch which will have community usage. The athletics track will be retained. And then there will be a 3G covered pitch, which will be the first in the southwest, an indoor one. And this will be all connected by active walkways right around the complex. So very much an integrated site. We'll also look, so in summary, we're looking to improve the outdoor facilities with community access and dedicated sites to be provided. Will be provided for the displaced petanque and hockey, which are being worked on now. I now reference the hub, and Mark is now going to talk a little bit about what's involved in that hub.
So part of that community consultation was identifying what was needed to bring the Brickfields Sports Centre to life, and was to look at the change in terms of that. So still providing that sports centre offering, but turning it in and transforming it into a community hub that is open and accessible for the local communities and further afield. From what we knew from the consultation was about bringing a health and wellbeing offering into that site. A dedicated youth zone, so a centralised youth zone that young people can go and access, and an open access at all times. Education and employment opportunities, so a number of suites to be provided to provide education and employment opportunities on there, as well as providing those physical activities inside as well. So still maintaining those areas of that sports and recreation, but also developing a community hub. Open breakout spaces for social interaction and family engagement, increased activities, both informal and formal activities within the site, and also, to ensure that the sustainability is to also making sure that we've got an improved gym offering at low cost for the local community and wider area. I'm just going to pass over to Andrew to talk about governance.
Yes, so how will it be governed? Well, first of all, the City Council will retain the freehold, and then there'll be 3 separate leases provided, one to Argyle, one to Community Trust, and then one to Plymouth Albion will retain their spaces. And the operational and community aspects will then be overseen by the Trust with a deed granting easement over the common areas, the shared areas, if you like. There will also be a big involvement carried forward with DCLL in this governance role, ensuring that the community aspects, the delivery aspects are all adhered to in the agreement that we've undertaken. There will be regular meetings with the board of stakeholders that will be set up with all the key stakeholders. Mark is now going to talk about some of the community provision that we're going to provide.
Community access is obviously one of the most important and pivotal parts of it. And as a summary, we've reviewed this and I'm ensuring that making sure there's a betterment for the local community, so there's an increased usage for the community to access. So increased and improved facilities, better facilities, but also increased community usage hours for the local community and some of those sports clubs that are there. That will also, as discussed previously, have formal and informal activities on there, and it will be tied up in a community use agreement to ensure that that remains there, and as Andrew mentioned, via that governance of the site.
So, sorry, I don't know once. So, in summary, why this project? Well, first of all, Argyle's a really well respected brand within the community. The connection within the city is really strong. I think as well that the Argyle Community Trust has a proven track record already at Malladon in developing community facilities, and will be able to access funding through grants that we wouldn't be able to access as a city in any other way. We're both community-focused organisations, and we can demonstrate as well that economic benefit will be developed through this elite academy being placed within the city. It will be an aspirational site, a beacon for our local youth, and in summary, it's a once-in-a-generational opportunity for the city, for health and well-being, and for all those involved. I'd like to hand over to Max, who might say a few words too.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's Max Venables from Plymouth Albion. I haven't got a huge amount to say other than I do think that it's extremely rare that 3 parties have sort of come together and their needs and their wants and their aspirations have aligned so nicely. We won't pretend it was easy all the way, but I think that we've had a really good, transparent sort of dynamic throughout this whole deal, which has been going on now for potentially 2 years
I think a bit longer.
before the pandemic. The years have gone. As everyone will know, will be aware, in 2015, Plymouth Albion got it spectacularly wrong. We've had to change how we've come in and we know we have to change how to do things. And people that work in the health and the leisure and the sports facility sector also know that the main problem with sport leisure facilities is that you need a lot of space, but everybody needs them at the same time, which always makes it a really tough gig. So when you're looking at collaborating and you're working with other sports, multi-sports, and those guys can pick up the dead time, there can be constantly people using it, things are maintained, they're used, that's when things don't get run down, they get looked after. I've sat in many meetings with Ruth, David, Matt, before the Argyle guys came, talking about Devonport, because it's always been a headache. The space there hasn't been sort of what the city deserves, but there also hasn't been a solution. So I want to thank David, Ruth for putting this deal together, bringing people to the table that make sure that the needs align. Apart from that, I'm going to stop stammering and hand you back to Andrew. I'm sure we'll finish up.
I haven't got anything else to say other than thank you for this great opportunity.
Thank you all. Do anyone want to add anything, like Ruth or David, because you're on the call?
I'm keen Matt has the opportunity to speak, leader, if that's okay.
Thanks, Matt Ward.
Yeah, thanks, David. Really pleased to be here, and thanks, Andrew, Mark, and Max for what you've said already. It's been a great project to work on with Argyle and with Albion, but also with the other partners. And as Councillor Patel's mentioned already, unfortunately Liz Sater can't be here, but been working really closely with Liz, who is in Ruth's team, and Liz has done a tremendous amount of consultation with other stakeholders. So, for example, the Devonport Community Leisure Limited, who are going to be a key partner as this project progresses, but also with the City of Plymouth Athletics Club, the Petanque Club, Hockey Users, Sport England and the like. So there are a tremendous number of stakeholders that have already been involved in this process, and we'll continue to liaise with them after today. As Andrew's already mentioned, the legal mechanism for this is for the City Council as landlord to be granting 3 separate leases to each of the parties to my right. So it's great that we've got the opportunity to secure the investment in this project by using our role as a landlord in that way, and through those leases we will also be able to ensure that we enshrine the provisions around community access and ongoing community use. And then just finally, in terms of timescales, there have already been some pre-application discussions with our planning team, and those have been positive. So the next stage for the project would be for those discussions to progress in more detail, for the team here to do some more work around the designs, for that community consultation to continue, that stakeholder engagement to continue, and we'd be looking for a planning application to be submitted later this year so that work could start on site early next year.
Excellent, thank you. Any questions? Contributions even? No? Okay. You were looking like you wanted to say something. Councillor Shea.
Only that this is a fantastic opportunity for the city, and I thank you for all the hard work that I know you've put in actually to pull this off and to get it together. So really well done, and thank you. Really impressed.
Thank you. I think it falls upon me to just reiterate those things, but particularly David Draffen and his team. I know this has been it's always complex with numbers of partners, and you've got changing political dynamics in Plymouth as well. We sort of have annual elections and things, so it's been one of those sort of really positive things, but a sort of a complex navigation, as indeed they always are. And it serves to remind us actually that you do have to sort of wait for the best things in life. That these big set piece regeneration projects and big set piece sporting projects do not arise overnight. Unfortunately, Rome was never built in a day, and it does sometimes take sort of several years to get the right outcomes, whether that's sport, leisure, regeneration, or whatever it might be. So I would just like to say to each of you, Max, Andrew, Mark, thanks for coming in, and thanks for what you do on behalf of Plymouth. What you do is amazing. Like, we're very proud of Albion, we're very proud of Argyle, You are sort of household brands. You know, it's not just sort of you're known down here on the peninsula. We are like incredibly inspired that you've bought into us as an organisation, and that we've been able to work with you over the last few years to get this combination, as you say, the constellations all together. I'm a massive believer in it's healthy body, healthy mind, isn't it? So, you know, the more people that can take part in sort of physical sporting pursuits, or even watching it, becoming engaged in that way, then that is a massive improvement potentially for sort of the health and well-being here in Plymouth. And we do have, sadly, some of the worst data on health and well-being, and in terms of sort of inner city deprivation and health outcomes. So this is just, it's wonderful. It's not just a wonderful news story, it's going to be a wonderful project delivery once you get up and running next year, hopefully. So thanks for what you do on behalf of our city. People know you guys far better than they know us, and we are acutely aware of that. And it's lovely to finish the meeting on such a positive note. I have to say, you know, if this is my last cabinet that I lead, it's been an absolute privilege to work with the team. And we've delivered many good things as a group of 57 councillors, not just the cabinet, for Plymouth over the last year. And I hope to be back, but it's been a real privilege to work with you all. Thank you particularly to the teams of officers. We have the great, it's not the glory, but we get the best side of the deal here. Like, we councillors get to announce stuff that other people work very, very hard on, and we're acutely aware of that. So thanks for everything that you've done. Tracy's not here today, but Anthony, Giles, and your team of 2,400, you know, across Plymouth, and my colleagues, thank you for what you've done over the past year. I think you've all been tremendous. I know. I was just building up. I wanted to close by putting the recommendations forward for probably the best project we've seen for many months, sort of come before the council, so come before the committee. So I think we're able to do this in public, but it is the approval, therefore, to firstly grant the lease at Brickfields to the three entities, basically. And Cabinet, I'm asking you to approve that. I'm not going to read through, you don't want me, Giles, to read through the dozen other recommendations, but it is basically to approve the package, the partnership leases, etc. Are we happy to do that? And that is unanimously carried. Okay, that means agenda item 21, which would have been to exempt that part, is no longer required. So we are there, and agenda item 22 is not required either. So thank you for what you do, and see you anon.